Hello and welcome to my channel. The reflection of my camera in my non-reflective glasses. But anyway, I'm trying not to wear my glasses that much anymore, so that's okay. So I actually just finished recording a podcast episode for the Flavor Room with Sutton and Lace, which P.S. They're amazing, and the podcast is amazing. So if you aren't already subscribed, make sure you go over and subscribe to their podcast over on Spotify. My episode isn't out yet because we literally just recorded, but it will be coming. But we were talking about relationships, and Sutton had mentioned, some of my recent content, and specifically had also brought up a post that I did recently around supplements and going off all of my supplements while I was in Bali. And, I wanted to talk a little bit about this here as well because some people don't necessarily see the parallel between our health, our relationships, and our success in our businesses, our careers, with money, etc. And the thing is I believe in an integrative approach to our success and having a life you love, being fully expressed in your life, in your business, with your words. It all really comes back to the same things. And to adjust my little camera there. It all comes back to the same things, and including with your health. And your relationship with your health is really kind of like a relationship with anything or anyone else, and it's mirroring something back to you. So if things aren't going the way you want to with your health, there's definitely things to look at, and you can say, oh well, I can't help this, that, or the other thing, or this is genetic, or blah blah blah. And I'm not saying that some of those things aren't true and that there's things beyond your control that have happened to you, but oftentimes, even things that are hereditary in nature, or, oops, alarm going off there. Um, Even some of those things that we don't really think of as being something that we can control are absolutely within our control. So, coming full circle back to, what we were talking about on the podcast, and we were talking about this post that I recently did where I was sharing that I had recently gone off of all of my supplements and prescription medications. Um, and while I was in Bali, this happened, and it happened largely as a result of a visit that I had with a Balinese priest slash healer slash guru. He's just a whole multitude of things, an amazing, amazing man. Um, and I don't want to say I'm actually not outsourcing my power in what happened to him, because he outright says, like, not everybody is ready to do the work with him, because it's not going to work if you aren't there doing the work as well. So yes, he did some healing sessions with me around, my body, my nervous system, which opened me up to actually be able to go off of prescriptions and supplements, some of which, not the exact medication, but for instance, for acid reflux, I had been on something for, what year is it, 2025? I think over 20 years at this point, like nonstop. So even though it's been different things, it's usually been some type of prescription. Lately, it's been more over the counter, famotidine, which is like Pepcid or whatever, the last couple of years. And I told myself, well, that's better because I'm not no longer taking, the proton pump inhibitors and some of the other stuff that I've been on for years. And I didn't have to take this, medication all the time, but I was still taking it every day, at least once, most days twice. I had gone for a period where I wasn't doing it every day, and then I had come back to taking it. But and the supplements, the different ones that I've been on, most of them I've been on probably for about 5 years at this point, give or take. And I had become very dependent to the point where I was, um, I would always have them with me in my purse. And if I went out to eat or something, or I was traveling and I didn't have them, I would go into like almost a panic. I would be afraid to eat, afraid of, the symptoms that I might have. And I was, I was recognizing this before I ever went off of them, where I had become so dependent on having these things in my life. And, as I was getting ready to travel to Bali, and I realized like, and then this happened last year too, like half of my carry-on bag was literally filled with supplement bottles and pills, and I didn't have weight, available in my bag for some of the other things I wanted to bring because I had to bring these bottles, and you had to have the original containers, for customs or immigration or whatever. And um, I'm just like, I'm so sick of this. I'm sick of having to travel like this. I'm sick of people looking at me and being like, oh my God, she's on a lot of pills. I'm sick of feeling like I need to take a pill every time that I wanted to eat, being afraid to eat, and if I didn't have them. I actually remember a time 5 years ago when I was really like going through some healing around my gut, and traveling with my parents back from Arizona to Wisconsin, and we, were traveling via car slash truck slash, in the RV. And I remember us stopping for lunch one day, and we had been making like our meals and stuff as we went, but we kind of ran out of the food that we had packed. So we're just like, oh, we're just gonna stop and we're going to go to, Burger King or wherever. And grab some food. And even my husband, who was with, who's vegan, had options. But I remember like just actually crying. Like I literally cried because I didn't feel like there was anything that I could eat. And especially without taking these pills. So I did have the pills with me at that time. But then, fast forwarding that, like even when I had these pills or didn't have them, years later, I was still, even though I'd gone through this whole journey to heal myself, I was still depending on these pills, these things to make me feel safe, to actually show up and eat the things that I want, to feel healthy. And so, fast forward going to Bali this year, I met this man, this healer. I had actually heard about him last year from a friend of mine who, was also one of my drivers that I met in Bali. And she had mentioned this guy, and I hadn't had the opportunity to meet him, but this year I was able to connect with him and meet him. And so I went there, and I actually, when he asked me like, "Oh, how can I help you? What do you want?" And I didn't really know. I just was so mesmerized by the stories that I had heard of this guy and how powerful his work was that I just really wanted to meet him. Um, And I didn't know what was drawing me there necessarily, but I remember saying, well, what do I want? I guess I just want to be happy, like live a happy life, be healthy and live a happy life. And one of the first things he said to me, well, he said a couple things. One was about my relationship with my husband, but the other one was stop taking the pills, like stop the pills, no more pills. He said it like over and over. Like, first of all, I never told him I was on supplements or pills, but he knew, which is a whole nother story in the power of this man. But he knew. Um, and he said this, and I really sat with it. And I realized that, well, first of all relationships are mirrors, and I talk about that a lot. So I'm like, what is this mirroring? Like, he knows, because I know. I've known for a long time that I don't want to live the rest of my life on pills, on supplements, and I think that it's just a ploy. Like I was spending hundreds of dollars every month just to be well. And so I didn't have to be on pills, like regular prescriptions and go to the doctor, but I'm spending more on supplements than I'm spending on fucking health insurance, just to keep myself healthy. But it's just, and it's like, oh, this, and nothing against, my naturopath. In fact, she actually will tell me like you can go buy them on Amazon or wherever you can find them cheapest. So she isn't always worried about making money. But a lot of people, it's like they're using it as, pun intended, a supplement to supplement or supplement to their income. They're using supplements as supplements to their income. So they're just like pushing, pushing, pushing these things to fill their pockets. Not really a whole lot different than doctors used to be like with the pharmaceutical industry. Um, and, recognizing that this wasn't how I wanted to live. And so, fast forward to this man and meeting him and him saying this, like it's already something that I knew internally I wanted to do, but he then reflected that back to me of like, this is what you need to do. And he started talking about my health and how this was actually impacting it, and talking a lot about marketing, specifically around, these supplements and everything else. And that day, the first day I met him, when he said that, I committed. I just had this internal knowing of like, yeah, he's right. I'm not going to question this. And, I think if we don't agree with things that someone says, we absolutely should push back and question it, not from a perspective of like trying to make someone else wrong, but a perspective of like, why doesn't this feel right to me? But I knew, like in my soul, my gut, I knew that this was part of my journey and what I had to go through. And I talk so much about being unfiltered and being all of you and being fully expressed, and that includes in your health. And the thing is I believe that oftentimes our health issues are a result of us not showing up fully expressed in our lives somehow, whether it's your business, your relationships, just how you're living, where you're living, any and all of it, right? And I recognized that I was never going to feel free. I was never going to feel like all of me if I was dependent on these pills, on outsourcing my power to pills, of not being able to live my life, to travel without these pills, to go out to dinner, to do the things that I wanted to without depending on a fucking pill. And so I committed that day to doing it, and I stopped everything. And the first couple of days, admittedly, felt I didn't feel great going into it, but I had like a big energy. I don't even know. It's not just an energy healing. That feels like such an understatement. You just have to experience it, which PS, you can come to one of my retreats and you can actually go see this man. Um, as long as correlating with his travel schedule, he is in Bali when we have our retreats, that will be a part of it. Um, but no, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I committed to it like full stop, and I stopped everything. And within a couple days, it stopped. Like the acid reflux. I was eating the things that I wanted. I was feeling better than I had in years. And then I came back there like a week later, and people that I met there like a week ago that came for an event, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you look younger. You look different." And I just actually had that reflected to me again by Sutton and Lace, who I had spoken with. Well, Lisa, I had spoken with her via Zoom like 2 months ago, and she's like, I didn't even recognize you. Sutton, I've known for a bit longer. Um, but even still, she was going to say, like, you look different. You look great. And I do credit it to the shifts that I've been making, and I feel better than ever. And, full transparency, there's been some situations, some days where I've had heartburn, but I'm actually able to clear that largely with just breathing, by also, being careful with what I eat, which, I'm not nearly as strict. I've had gluten, I've had some dairy, but I also know my body doesn't love those things all the time. So I'm just being careful with what I eat. I drink some ginger tea, chew on a little bit of ginger candy or something, when and if that's an issue for me. But largely, like, I feel 100% different. Like I've done a complete 180 in my health. I've lost weight. I've lost inflammation. I mean, my skin, I can't tell really because I'm recording on Zoom here and it always looks perfect, right? But my skin has just like gotten better, and it was already, I think, pretty good So people have complimented me, told me that I look younger, and it's just so interesting to me, like how these small changes can make such a difference. And yes, of course, I did just spend a month in Bali, so I feel very refreshed, and there's that as well. But I wanted to talk about this because I think so many people, supplements, medications, health diagnoses, like, oh, I need this, or oh, I have this, I deal with this, and we like make that our identity. We outsource our power to our illnesses, to our medications, to our relationships, to the limitations that we say that other people or other things put on us, but oftentimes we choose those limitations. So, for me, I chose to go on those supplements. No one ever said you have to be on these for the rest of your life. I chose that because I thought that was what was making me better, just like in my business. I chose to hire mentors. I chose to spend a lot of money on that and sometimes put myself in debt because of that. Nobody did that, but I did that. And even if I didn't take from those mentorships what I wanted, I made those choices. I made the choices, that have affected my body, and I have the ability to change all of that just like you do. And I think it's so easy to outsource, things outside of us, to push blame outside of us, to think that we can't fix things or change our situations, but it's fucking bullshit. And, even like meeting this man over in Bali and hearing the stories of how he helped people like cure their cancer, to go from not walking for years, like being in a wheelchair, to walking again. And those are obviously some of the big ones. Healing, someone with severe eating disorder, and anxieties, and so many different things. One thing he said for me, I didn't again mention cholesterol, but he said your cholesterol is improved. He's like, go get it tested when you get back. I haven't done that yet, but I will be curious when I do, of course. Um, but we get to choose how life goes for us. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it isn't the easy path. And like I said, quitting all of my supplements, do I think that they've helped me? Possibly. But I also think it was in my mind believing that they did, just like I can believe that I can heal myself without them. And I have that evidence as well. So when you're telling yourself that you can't do something because you have XYZ limitation, it's honestly, it's kind of bullshit. It's your excuse, it's your story. And I'm saying that with love because I've done it too. But it's whether it's your health, whether it's your business, it's a relationship, it's money, or saying, oh, I want this thing, but I can't afford this, I can't do that. And I'm not telling you to go spend beyond your means. I'm not telling you to like put yourself in shitty situations. You have to be actually ready for the commitments that you're making from that right energy, which 5 years ago, I wasn't ready to go completely supplement free and to do this because I was scared. And those served a bit as a crutch for me. And I had to go through all of the things that I went through to get to a point where I could really step into my power in this way and choose to heal myself this way. So, again, I'm not telling you to take my journey, but I'm telling you to step back and question your own, to question your limitations, to question the excuses, the things that you're telling yourself you can't do, that you can't have, and ask yourself, is that really true? Because the only way to actually truly living a life you love, to having the success you desire in your business and in all areas of your life, is to actually fucking choose to have it, to choose to be the version of you that creates that life for yourself. And, yes, I can absolutely help you with that. I have a new mastermind starting. I have a free community, new mastermind starting in January. I have a free community that's open all the time. I'm going to be running multiple retreats in 2026 and beyond, to support you in this. I do one-on-one mentorship. So if you want to talk to me about those things, absolutely message me or use the links below to join the free communities or whatever, message me. But you can do this with or without me. And I also want to make that clear because I think that so many, mentors, teachers, coaches, etc., make you believe that you need them to make changes. No, it accelerates your growth. It accelerates your journey. But what you need is to commit to yourself, because nobody is coming to save you. Your supplements, your mentors, your coaches, your parents, your partners, no one is coming to save you. It's only up to you. And that is when those things work. That's when mentorship works. That's when your, husband, your partner, your parents get on board with you, is when you make that choice. And I've had that reflected to me in so many different ways, like over and over again, from my relationship to my health and so many other things. And I will be talking about more and more of that, but I just wanted to come on again because this one was fresh in my mind. I just talked about it on the Flavor Room podcast interview again. I think that's coming out. The episode will be coming out in February, but definitely go follow these women if you aren't already, because they're brilliant. And I imagine that any of the other interviews that they've done are also worthwhile to listen to in addition to mine when it comes out. So uh, if you've enjoyed this, of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. If you want to have those conversations about working together, about joining the Unfiltered Ascension Masterminds, retreats, or joining the free community, just use the links below to the appropriate places to get into the masterminds, my one-on-one, and the retreats. You do have to have a conversation with me, even if it's just via messaging. So you can do that on Facebook or LinkedIn using those links. And I'm really looking forward to continuing sharing these stories with you. And I hope you have the most amazing day, and we will talk to you very, very soon.